funding winter, the term, it entered our lexicology only in 2022, even as we were just recovering from the whirlwind 2021, the hangover of 2021. So, and as a journalist, I must tell you that not a single day in 2021 went by without, half a dozen press releases announcing fundraisers, landing up in our inbox. But 2022, and we saw what happened in the West, and, the ripple effects also reached, the Indian shores. Now with the SVB crisis unfolding, how spooked are the investors? Are investors now going to further take a pause, look at how the entire crisis is unfolding? How are we going to see the funding environment? If, Sarthak, if you can just take it first up.
Sure, thanks Sneha for having me. So look, my view is if a big part of investing is about estimating value of a company. And the two parts are, one, how the earnings of that business will grow, and how much are those earnings worth. From the big macroeconomic uncertainty makes it very challenging for investors like us for our own portfolio companies, to forecast what the next 12 months will look like. And when we do that, it's even harder for any prospective opportunity. So a big part of the funding winter, or the challenge for investors today, is to be able to ascertain how companies will perform, make it very hard to size them.
Right. But as per Bain's latest report, India continued to demonstrate some bit of resilience, even in the global headwinds were there. And we saw that in 2022, Asia Pacific per se, within Asia Pacific, the share of India-focused VC investments reached 20% for the first time. So Harshjit, if you can just step in and talk about how India, despite the global headwinds, has stayed resilient, and we see the kind of, you've also raised the largest fund, to invest in the subcontinent, Asia and Southeast Asia. So how do you see that?
Yeah, I think overall, India has managed the whole uncertainty over the last few years from a macro perspective quite well. Our stock market has stayed relatively flat compared to the decline we've seen globally. Inflation is broadly under control. So I think those are factors that give people confidence around sort of, this macro perspective that exists. And then speaking sort of, for young companies, we think, every year there will be, a handful of great companies that get started. This is true for, can go all the way back to the 90s, and this would always be true. You could always find a handful of great companies that start in bull markets, in bear markets, and that's what we're focused on, finding those few companies that will be outlier successes, where the founders are not deterred by what's going on, but will continue sort of putting their heads down and keep building. So I think that's what we're focused on. And at least on the early stage side, I'd say that while on growth, things have been more bleak, on the early stage side, we see that, activity continues. I think our estimate is there are 15 seed investments that happen each month in India, 5 Series A's that happen each month in the last 6 months. So that is sort of, an investment environment that has continued to stay relatively resilient, where the question of valuation multiples and some of the other factors play less of a role. And it's much more about the founder and the potential going forward.
Right, so early stage continues to be resilient is what Harshjit says, and Amey, you should step in here, and you are helping so many startups, with your accelerator program. So how are you seeing the kind of funnel, in the last 12 months, and if you have to, crystal ball gaze into next 6 to 8 months also, what is the kind of pipeline do you have?
Yeah, so from a Reliance perspective, I think things are going really strong. As far as young startups are concerned, we see a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of new, startups are coming about. There's a lot more awareness in the early stage in terms of what kind of businesses founders want to build, as compared to when we started the accelerator program. So obviously, because of, all the friends here and, the startup ecosystem, that seems to be going really strong. As a program, we focus on slightly later stage companies because, that is a point at which they have a product market fit. They can build something that can scale within our ecosystem. We can be a big enough customer for them, and they should look at us from a scaling point of view. So it's not really about going from 0 to 1 or 1 to 10, but 10 to 100 and beyond. So from that perspective, I think the pipeline is very, very healthy. And of course, I mean, very selectively, we also look at strategic partnerships where founders, if they feel that, from here on, we would like Reliance as a more strategically involved partner in our growth, then that's something that we are always looking for. And the priorities are based on, what the company decides. And so we kind of focus on those areas and, keep going from there. But I think it's a very healthy time to be doing a startup, to be working with a company like ours as well.